I watched my husband's face drain of color as the appraiser set down the jade bangle, the one that had been in my family for 6 generations, and delivered the news that would destroy him. "I'm sorry, Mr. Chen, but this is costume jewelry. Glass and dyed resin, worth perhaps $50 at most." Marcus Chen, my husband of 5 years, the man who'd poisoned me in my first life to inherit my family's fortune, stood frozen in the auction house's private appraisal room. His mistress, my former best friend Jennifer, clutched his arm, her perfectly manicured nails digging into his expensive suit. "That's impossible," Marcus said, his voice tight. "That bangle is authenticated. It belonged to the Empress Dowager Cixi. It's worth at least $8 million. The appraiser, an elderly woman with decades of experience, picked up the necklace next, the one my grandmother had worn on her wedding day, the one worth $12 million. "Also fake," she said, not unkindly. "I'm afraid someone has deceived you very badly, Mr. Chen." I stood in the back of the room, invisible to them, watching through the security monitor in the auction house manager's office. My manager's office now, because I'd bought this auction house 6 months ago along with half a dozen other businesses, using the money I'd made from selling the real jewelry, the pieces Marcus thought he'd inherited when I died 2 years ago. Except I hadn't died. Not really, not permanently. I'd been reborn. Let me take you back to where this really started. Not to this moment of perfect revenge, but to the moment I died the first time, choking on poison in my own bed while my husband watched. In my first life, I died at 27 years old on a cold November night. I remember the metallic taste in my mouth, the way my vision blurred at the edges. I remember Marcus standing over me, his face impassive, while I clawed at my throat and tried to understand what was happening. "I'm sorry, Vivian," he'd said, and he'd actually sounded sorry. "But you won't sign the papers. You won't let me access the jewelry. This is the only way." The papers, the documents that would have given him control of my family's estate, including the priceless collection of jade, pearls, and gemstones that had been passed down through my mother's family for generations. My grandmother had made me promise to protect it, to preserve it for my own children someday. I'd never had children. Marcus had always said he wasn't ready. Of course he wasn't ready. He was too busy planning how to kill me and take everything. I died on our bedroom floor, my hand outstretched toward the phone I couldn't reach, while Marcus calmly called 911 and rehearsed his story about coming home to find me collapsed. Heart attack? They'd rule it eventually. I'd always had low blood pressure. It was believable. The last thing I saw was Jennifer stepping out of our closet, where she'd apparently been hiding and watching the whole time. She was wearing my silk robe. She was already living in my house. "Finally," she'd said to Marcus, "now we can be together." Then everything went black. I woke up 5 years earlier on my wedding day. I opened my eyes to see my mother fastening a pearl necklace around my neck, the triple strand of Akoya pearls that had belonged to her mother. In my first life, I'd worn them down the aisle. In my first life, they'd ended up in Marcus's safety deposit box after I died. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," my mother said, tears in her eyes. I couldn't speak. I was 22 years old again. My mother was alive again. She'd died of a stroke 3 years into my marriage, devastated by how distant I'd become from the family, how much time I spent trying to please Marcus and his family instead of my own. I looked at myself in the mirror, young, naive, so stupidly in love with Marcus Chen, the charming finance manager I'd met at Jennifer's birthday party. Jennifer, my best friend since college, the woman who'd introduced me to the man who would kill me. "Vivian," my mother touched my shoulder. "Are you okay? You look pale." I had a choice in that moment. I could tell her everything, the poison, the betrayal, the 5 years of slowly losing myself to a man who saw me as nothing but a bank account with a heartbeat. But who would believe me? I sounded insane even to myself. Instead, I made a different choice. "Mom," I said carefully. "The jewelry, Grandma's collection, where is it being kept?" She looked surprised. "In the family vault at the bank, of course." "Why?" "I want to move it. After the wedding. Somewhere only I know about." My mother frowned. "Marcus will be your husband, sweetheart. Legally, he'll have some claim to marital assets." "Not the heirlooms, I said firmly. "Those are mine. Family legacy. I want them protected. She studied my face for a long moment. My mother had always been perceptive. Did something happen? Did Marcus say something about the jewelry? Yes, I thought. In 5 years, he'll kill me for it. I just want to be careful, I said instead. Please, Mom, it's important to me. She nodded slowly. Okay, we'll handle it after the honeymoon. But Vivian, if you're having doubts about Marcus. I'm not, I lied. Because I couldn't call off the wedding. Not yet. I needed to understand exactly what had happened in my first life. Needed to figure out who else had been involved in the plan to kill me. Was it just Marcus and Jennifer? Or was his family in on it too? His mother had always been obsessed with my grandmother's jewelry, always borrowing pieces and being slow to return them. I needed to let this play out differently. Smarter. So I walked down the aisle. I married Marcus Chen. I smiled for the photos and danced at the reception and pretended I didn't know how the story ended. But this time, I was going to rewrite it. The first year of my second marriage was almost exactly like the first year of my first marriage. Marcus was charming, attentive, loving. He brought me flowers and took me to nice restaurants and made love to me like I was precious. It was all an act. I knew that now. But I played along because I needed time to plan. I also needed to confirm my suspicions about when things had started to go wrong. In my first life, the turning point had come about 18 months into the marriage when Marcus first suggested I should give him access to my family's bank accounts for easier money management. I'd said no, and that's when the warmth had started to fade from his eyes. This time, I waited for that moment like waiting for a bomb to go off. It came on a Tuesday evening, 14 months into the marriage. We were having dinner at his mother's house, a weekly obligation I'd hated in my first life and hated even more now. Marcus's mother, Patricia, had made her famous pot roast, and his father, Harold, was holding court about his golf game. Jennifer was there too. She'd started dating Marcus's younger brother, Derek, about 6 months ago, another detail that perfectly matched my first life. Vivian, Patricia said, her voice honey-sweet and venomous. I was at the museum fundraiser last week and Eleanor Rothschild was wearing the most stunning jade necklace. It reminded me of your grandmother's collection. You really should donate some of those pieces to the museum. For the tax write-off, if nothing else. In my first life, I'd politely declined, and Patricia had made it her mission to pressure me about the jewelry at every family dinner for the next year. This time, I smiled. Actually, Patricia, I've been thinking about the collection a lot lately. It's such a responsibility. Marcus's head snapped up. I saw the interest flare in his eyes. Really? What kind of responsibility? Well, the insurance alone costs a fortune, and it just sits in the vault doing nothing. I've been thinking maybe I should, I don't know, do something more with it. Like what? This from Jennifer, who was suddenly very interested in her wine glass. I'm not sure yet. Maybe get it appraised properly? My grandmother's records are old. I don't even know the current value of most pieces. I could help with that, Marcus said immediately. I have a friend who's an appraiser. Very discreet. We could do a private evaluation. Of course he had an appraiser friend. In my first life, that friend had provided the fraudulent authentication documents Marcus used to insure the jewelry for its full value. Marcus had planned to file an insurance claim after my death, pretending the pieces had been stolen. He would have gotten the insurance money and kept the jewelry. Double profit from murdering his wife. That's so sweet of you, honey, I said, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. But I think I want to handle this myself. It's a family thing, you know? His smile didn't reach his eyes. Of course. Whatever you want. But I saw it. The flash of frustration, quickly masked. He'd shown his hand too early, gotten impatient. That was useful information. After dinner, while the men were in the study drinking Harold's expensive scotch, Patricia cornered me in the kitchen. You know, Vivian, when you marry into a family, you become part of that family. What's yours becomes shared. I dried a dish carefully. Is that what happened when you married Harold, Patricia? Did you share everything with his family? Her smile was icy. I didn't come from money, dear. I married it, like Marcus married it. There it was, the truth she'd never spoken so plainly in my first life. Marcus married me, I said softly, and not my bank account. Don't be naive. Men like Marcus don't marry girls like you for love. They marry you for security, for status, for the jewelry, I finished. Is that what you're saying, Patricia? She set down the dish towel. I'm saying that you'd be wise to be more generous with your family. With Marcus's family. We welcomed you into our home. The least you could do is share some of that precious inheritance. In my first life, this conversation had made me cry. I'd run to the bathroom and locked myself in, devastated by Patricia's cruelty. This time, I just smiled. You're absolutely right, Patricia. Family should share everything. For instance, I should probably mention that Marcus has been meeting with an appraiser behind my back for the past 6 months. Did you know about that? Her face went carefully blank. I'm sure there's an explanation. I'm sure there is. Just like I'm sure there's an explanation for why Jennifer has been asking me detailed questions about where I keep the jewelry, what the security codes are, whether I've written a will yet. I leaned in close. You know what I love about being rich, Patricia? I can afford to be very paranoid. I have excellent security, and I have lawyers who document everything, every conversation, every threat, every attempt to manipulate me into giving up my inheritance. Are you threatening me? No, I said pleasantly. I'm just sharing information, like family does. I left her standing in the kitchen and went to find Marcus. It was time to move to the next phase of my plan. That night, I told Marcus I wanted to have the jewelry collection appraised and properly documented. He was thrilled, of course. He suggested his friend again. I agreed. But what Marcus didn't know was that I'd already had the real jewelry appraised. 6 months ago, I'd secretly hired the most prestigious auction house in the country to do a complete evaluation. The total value, $43 million. $43 million in jade, pearls, diamonds, and rare gemstones collected over 6 generations. My grandmother had been even wealthier than I'd known. I'd also hired a master craftsman, a jeweler who specialized in historical reproductions. It cost me $2 million, but he created perfect fakes of every single piece in the collection. Fake jade bangles, fake pearl necklaces, fake diamond brooches, all identical to the originals, down to the slight imperfections in aging. The real pieces were in a private vault in Switzerland. I'd moved them personally on a trip Marcus thought was a spa vacation with college friends. Now I just had to switch the fakes into the family vault and let Marcus think he'd successfully manipulated me into giving him access. Marcus's appraiser came to our house 2 weeks later. His name was David something, and he wore an expensive suit and carried an official-looking briefcase. He examined each piece carefully, making notes on a tablet. "These are extraordinary, Mrs. Chen," he said, holding up a jade bangle to the light. "Museum quality. I'd estimate this piece alone at 7 to 8 million. I watched his face carefully. He was good. Very convincing. In my first life, I'd believed every word. "How much for the whole collection?" Marcus asked, his hand on my shoulder playing the concerned husband. "Conservatively, 40 to 45 million. Marcus's hand tightened on my shoulder. He was excited. Trying not to show it, but excited. "We should increase the insurance," he said. "Vivian, honey, these pieces need better protection." "Actually," David said, "I'd recommend moving them to a more secure facility. Your current bank vault is adequate, but for a collection of this value..." "I'm comfortable where they are," I said firmly. Marcus's jaw tightened. "Sweetheart, I really think we should listen to the expert. The jewelry has been in that vault for 40 years. It's fine." We argued about it for weeks. Marcus became insistent, then angry, then cold. This was the pattern from my first life. Pressure, manipulation, eventually isolation. He started working late, started picking fights about small things, started making me feel crazy for not trusting him. Jennifer helped. She'd call me, concerned about how controlling I was being. "Marcus just wants to protect you," she'd say. "Why won't you let him help?" I let them think they were wearing me down. Finally, 3 months after the appraisal, I agreed to move the jewelry to a new vault, a facility Marcus had researched, one with better security. What he'd actually researched was a facility his family had connections with, where they could access my jewelry without my knowledge. I signed the papers, transferred the collection, gave Marcus a key in case of emergency. He kissed me that night like he loved me. Thank you for trusting me, Vivian. I know this was hard for you. You're my husband, I said. Of course I trust you. 3 weeks later, my mother had a stroke. In my first life, my mother's stroke had devastated me. I'd thrown myself into caring for her, spending every day at the hospital, neglecting everything else. It was during those 3 months while my mother fought for her life that Marcus had consolidated his plan. He'd gotten closer to Jennifer. He'd convinced me to sign a will leaving everything to him. He'd slowly poisoned me with small doses of arsenic that I'd mistaken for stress symptoms. My mother died never knowing that her daughter was being murdered. This time was different. This time, I knew the stroke was coming. My mother had an undiagnosed cerebral aneurysm. It had been there all along, waiting. In my first life, it had ruptured while she was alone at home. She'd lain on the floor for hours before anyone found her. Not this time. I'd convinced her to see a specialist 6 months ago, complaining of my own headaches and asking her to get checked too, just in case it was genetic. They'd found the aneurysm. They'd operated. She was fine. My mother was alive, healthy, and absolutely furious when I told her what Marcus was planning. He's trying to steal from you? She was in my apartment, the secret apartment I'd rented under a shell company, where I'd been staying 1 day a week, claiming I needed space for personal reflection. Marcus thought I was at a therapist's office. Not just steal, in the future I saw, he killed me for it. I'd told her everything, the rebirth, the poison, the betrayal. I'd expected her to think I was insane. Instead, she'd gone very still and said, I never liked him. I knew there was something wrong. You never said anything. You loved him. I thought I was being an overprotective mother. She gripped my hand. Show me proof. Show me evidence that he's planning this. I showed her everything. The fake appraisal documents David had created, which valued the fakes as if they were real. The insurance policy Marcus had taken out on my life, $5 million, with him as the sole beneficiary. I'd found the paperwork in his office, hidden in a file labeled tax documents. I showed her the emails between Marcus and Jennifer, sent from accounts they thought were secret. Emails that went back 3 years, to before Marcus and I had even met. I'll introduce myself to her at your birthday party, Marcus had written to Jennifer. You said she's rich and naive. Perfect combination. Jennifer's response, just don't fall in love with her for real. Remember, this is business. My mother read every email with a face like stone. When she finished, she looked at me with eyes full of tears and rage. We're going to destroy him, she said, but we're going to be smart about it. We're going to make him destroy himself. That's when I told her about the fake jewelry. Her smile was terrifying and beautiful. My clever girl. The next phase took patience. My mother and I became co-conspirators, planning Marcus's downfall the way he'd planned my death. Carefully, methodically, with perfect attention to detail. First, we documented everything. Every lie Marcus told. Every time he tried to access the vault. Every conversation with Jennifer. My mother hired a private investigator, who confirmed what I already knew. Marcus and Jennifer were having an affair. They met at hotels twice a week. They'd been together the entire time Marcus and I had been married. The investigator also discovered something I hadn't known. Derek, Marcus's brother, wasn't really dating Jennifer. He was gay and had a longtime partner he kept secret from his conservative family. Jennifer was his beard, and in exchange, he helped her maintain access to family events where she could watch Marcus and me. The whole family was in on it. Patricia knew about the affair. Harold knew. They were all waiting for me to die so they could divide up my inheritance. They'd even discussed who would get which pieces of jewelry. Patricia wanted the jade. Jennifer wanted the pearls. Harold wanted to sell the diamonds and invest the money. Marcus wanted the insurance payout and the freedom to marry his mistress. It would have been perfect if I'd actually died on schedule. But I hadn't. And now I had something they didn't know about. Fake jewelry worth nothing, sitting in a vault they thought was their golden ticket. "When do we tell them?" my mother asked. "When do we expose them?" "Not yet," I said. "Let them think they're winning. Let Marcus think I'm getting weaker, more pliable. I need him to commit to his plan completely. No room for him to back out or claim it was all a misunderstanding." In my first life, Marcus had started poisoning me about 2.5 years into our marriage. I was approaching that timeline now. I started documenting everything I ate and drank. I hired a food tester, a discreet professional who analyzed samples of my meals. Sure enough, 3 weeks later, we found traces of arsenic in my morning coffee. Marcus was trying to kill me again. I felt strangely calm about it. I'd been expecting this. I was ready. I switched out the contaminated coffee for clean coffee and saved the poisoned samples as evidence. I started acting sick, tired, weak, confused. I went to doctors who found nothing wrong with me, just like in my first life. Marcus played the concerned husband perfectly. "Maybe you're just stressed," he'd say, holding my hand. "Maybe you should rest more." Jennifer would visit and suggest I was depressed. "You should talk to someone, Viv. This isn't like you." I played along. I started sleeping more, eating less. I made mistakes at work. I'd gone back to my job at the marketing firm, the one I'd quit in my first life to focus on taking care of the house. This time, I'd kept the job, but now I started missing meetings, making errors. My boss, a woman named Sandra, who'd been a good friend in my first life before I'd ghosted all my friends, pulled me aside. "Vivian, I'm worried about you. You're not yourself." "I know," I said, letting my voice shake. "I think something's wrong with me. I think I'm sick." "Have you seen a doctor?" "They can't find anything. They think it's in my head." Sandra hugged me. "Take some time off. Focus on your health. Your job will be here when you're ready." I took a leave of absence. Marcus was thrilled. It meant more time at home, more opportunities to poison me, fewer witnesses to my decline. What he didn't know was that I'd stopped consuming anything he gave me. The coffee went down the drain. The food went into evidence bags. I was perfectly healthy, just pretending to die slowly. My mother wanted to call the police immediately. "We have the poison samples. We have proof." "Not yet," I insisted. "He needs to commit fully. He needs to think he's won." I waited until our 5th anniversary, the same timeline as my first death. I told Marcus I wanted to revise my will. His eyes lit up when I said it. We were having dinner at home, a meal I'd cooked myself, so I knew it wasn't contaminated. I was eating normally when he wasn't looking, staying strong, even though I was playing weak. "You want to update your will?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "I've been thinking about it a lot, about what happens if something happens to me. I don't have children to leave things to. You're my family now." "Vivian, don't talk like that. Nothing's going to happen to you." "But if it did," I reached across the table and took his hand. "I'd want you to be taken care of. I'd want you to have everything." "Everything?" "The jewelry, the house, my inheritance, all of it." I could see him trying not to smile. "Are you sure? That's a big decision." "You're my husband. You've taken such good care of me, especially these past few months when I've been so sick. It's the least I can do." He squeezed my hand. "I love you so much." "I love you too." We called his lawyer the next day, Marcus's lawyer, not mine. The man drew up a will leaving my entire estate to Marcus Chen in the event of my death. I signed it. Marcus witnessed it. Jennifer and Derek witnessed it. They thought they'd won. What they didn't know was that I'd already transferred all my real assets to a trust my mother controlled. The house was in the trust's name. My bank accounts had been emptied and moved to offshore accounts. The only things still in my legal name were the fake jewelry and a checking account with $50,000. Let them have the fakes. Let them fight over costume jewelry. I'd already won, but I needed one more piece to fall into place. I needed Marcus to actually try to kill me again. Attempted murder with witnesses, undeniable proof. So I set the trap. I told Marcus I wanted to celebrate our anniversary with a romantic dinner at home. Just the two of us. His favorite meal, his favorite wine. We never spend time together anymore, I said, my voice weak and tired. I miss you. I miss you too, baby. He kissed my forehead. I'll make it special, I promise. He made reservations at a restaurant instead, a nice gesture, or so it seemed. But I knew what he was really doing. He wanted witnesses who'd seen us together, seen me, looking sick and frail. When I died later that night, it would seem like natural progression of whatever mysterious illness I'd been suffering from. We went to dinner. I barely touched my food, claiming I felt nauseous. I excused myself to the bathroom twice. Marcus made a show of being concerned, asking the waiter for ginger ale, suggesting we go home early. I think I just need to rest, I said weakly. We drove home. Marcus helped me inside, his arm around my waist, so attentive, so loving. Let me make you some tea, he said. It'll help you sleep. That's sweet, honey. I went to our bedroom and changed into pajamas. I heard him in the kitchen, the kettle whistling, the clink of a spoon against a mug, the sound of a man making tea for his sick wife, the sound of a man adding poison to that tea. He brought it to me with a smile. Chamomile, your favorite. Thank you. I took the mug. It was warm in my hands. I could smell the chamomile. And underneath it, something else. Something bitter. In my first life, I'd drunk this tea. I'd died choking on it. This time, I pretended to take a sip. It's good, but I think I need to use the bathroom first. All that ginger ale at dinner. I set the mug on the nightstand and went to the bathroom. Once inside, I pulled out my phone and sent a text to my mother. Now. Then I poured the tea down the toilet, refilled the mug with chamomile tea from the flask I'd hidden in the bathroom cabinet, and came back out. Marcus was sitting on the bed watching the mug on the nightstand like it was a bomb about to go off. Feeling better? He asked. A little. I picked up the mug and drank the clean tea in front of him. This is really helping. Thank you, honey. I saw the confusion flicker across his face. Why wasn't I dying? How much poison had he used? Was it enough? I finished the tea and climbed into bed. I'm so tired. I think I'm just going to sleep. Good idea. Rest. I'll be right here. I closed my eyes and waited. 20 minutes later, he leaned over me. Vivian, are you awake? I didn't respond. I'd practiced this, breathing slowly, evenly, like I was deeply asleep or unconscious. He shook my shoulder. Vivian? I stayed still. I heard him get up, heard him pacing. Then I heard his phone buzz with a text message, his voice low and tense. She drank it. I don't know why she's not... Yes, I used the whole vial. Okay, I'll do it. I'll make sure. My heart pounded. This was it. This was the moment he'd decided in my first life, too. The poison wasn't working fast enough, so he'd have to finish it another way. I heard him walk to my side of the bed, heard him breathing heavily. Then I felt his hands on my throat. He was going to strangle me. In my first life, I'd been too weak from the poison to fight back. This time, I was strong, but I stayed still, letting him believe I was unconscious, letting him commit to the murder. His hands tightened. I gasped, playing them up. Part. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. But you won't give me access to the accounts. You won't let me have what should be mine. This is the only way. His hands squeezed harder. That's when the bedroom door burst open and police officers flooded into the room. Police, get your hands up! Marcus jumped back like I'd burned him. What are you doing here? Marcus Chen, you're under arrest for attempted murder. He looked at me still lying on the bed. I opened my eyes and smiled at him. Hello, honey, I said. Surprise? The police had been in the house the whole time, hidden in the guest room with my mother, watching everything through cameras I'd installed weeks ago. Cameras Marcus didn't know about. They'd heard him on the phone confirming the plan. They'd watched him bring me poisoned tea. They'd seen him try to strangle me. They'd recorded everything. As they put handcuffs on Marcus, I sat up and reached for the mug on the nightstand. The poisoned mug I'd swapped while in the bathroom. You'll want to test this, I told the detective. Arsenic, I believe. The same arsenic that's been in my coffee every morning for the past 3 months. I have samples of those too, all properly documented. Marcus stared at me like I was a ghost. But you drank the tea. I saw you. No, you saw what you wanted to see. What you expected to see. I smiled. I've known what you were planning for 5 years, Marcus. I've been 3 steps ahead of you the entire time. That's impossible. How could you? No, let's just say I had a very informative premonition. I stood up, perfectly healthy, perfectly strong. Did you really think you could murder me and take my inheritance? Did you think I was that stupid? A female officer came in from the hallway. We have Jennifer Marks in custody. She was waiting in her car outside, ready to come in after the 911 call to console the grieving widower. Of course she was. I looked at Marcus. You should have just divorced me. You would have walked away with nothing. But at least you'd be free. Now you're going to prison. You can't prove. I can prove everything. The poison tea, the life insurance policy, the emails between you and Jennifer going back 3 years, detailing your entire plan. The affair, the fraudulent appraisal, the conspiracy with your family, all of it. His face went white. My family didn't. Your mother knew. Your father knew. Derek knew. They all knew. I picked up my phone and showed him a recording. Patricia and Harold discussing how to divide up my jewelry after my death. They're accessories. They'll be arrested too. This is insane. You're insane. No, Marcus, I'm just smarter than you. The police led him away. He was screaming about his lawyer, about false accusations, about how he'd never hurt me. But we had everything on tape. His hands around my throat, his confession, his phone records, bank records showing he'd purchased arsenic 3 months ago. He was finished. The trial took 8 months. Marcus pleaded not guilty, of course. His lawyers tried to claim I'd set him up, that I'd planted evidence, that I was a vindictive wife trying to destroy my husband. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury took 4 hours to convict him on all counts: attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, theft. Jennifer was convicted as an accessory. Patricia and Harold were convicted of conspiracy. Derek made a deal and testified against all of them in exchange for probation. Marcus got 25 years to life. Jennifer got 15. Patricia and Harold got 10 each. I attended every day of the trial. I sat in the front row and watched them try to lie their way out of what they'd done. I watched the prosecution present the poison tea, the emails, the recordings. I watched the jury's faces as they heard Marcus's voice on tape. This is the only way. When the verdicts came in, Marcus looked at me across the courtroom. He looked old suddenly, broken. Why? He mouthed. I didn't answer, but I thought, because you killed me once. You don't get to do it again. After the trial, I did 3 things. First, I sold the house. I'd never liked it anyway. Marcus had picked it out. I bought a penthouse in the city with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the skyline. My mother moved in with me. We had dinner together every night and talked about everything we'd missed in my first life. Second, I went back to work. Not at the marketing firm, though Sandra had offered my job back. I started my own company, a security consulting firm that helped women protect their assets from predatory partners. Business was unfortunately booming. Third, I retrieved my grandmother's jewelry from the vault in Switzerland. The real jewelry. The $43 million worth of jade, pearls, and diamonds that Marcus had thought he was inheriting. I wore a different piece every day. The jade bangle when I gave speeches about financial security. The pearl necklace when I met with clients. The diamond brooch when I appeared on news programs talking about my case. I wore them proudly, publicly. I wanted Marcus to see them on TV and know that he'd never touched the real ones, that he'd murdered me, tried to murder me for fakes. I wanted him to spend every day in prison thinking about that. 6 months after the trial, I got a letter from Marcus. He'd written it from prison, on prison stationery, in messy handwriting that looked nothing like his usual precise script. Vivian, it started. I know you'll probably never forgive me. I don't expect you to, but I need you to know that I did love you in my way. At first, it was about the money. Jennifer introduced us because she knew you were rich. We planned it from the start, but somewhere along the way, I started to actually care about you. You were sweet, kind, trusting. I laughed at that. Trusting, like it was my fault. He'd betrayed me. The letter continued, I know what I did was wrong. I know I deserve to be here, but I can't stop thinking about something you said in court. You said you'd known about my plan for 5 years. How is that possible? How did you know? It's been driving me crazy trying to figure it out. I put the letter down and considered responding. Then I decided, why not? What harm could it do now? I wrote back, Marcus, you want to know how I knew? Here's the truth. You killed me. 5 years ago, in another life, you succeeded. You poisoned me on our anniversary, and I died on our bedroom floor while you watched. The last thing I saw was Jennifer coming out of the closet wearing my robe. Then I died. And then I woke up on our wedding day, 5 years in the past, with a chance to do it all over again. So I did. I married you again. I let you think you were winning. And then I destroyed you. You asked me once why I wouldn't just divorce you. This is why. Because you don't get to kill me and walk away. You don't get to win. I spent 5 years planning your downfall, and it was worth every second. Enjoy prison. Think of me every day. Think of all the jewelry you'll never touch. Think of all the money you'll never spend. Think of the life you could have had if you'd just been honest with me. I might have even loved you back, but you chose greed. You chose murder. So this is what you get. Nothing. Forever. Vivian. I sealed the letter and mailed it. I never heard from him again. 2 years after the trial, something wonderful happened. I met someone. His name was James, and he was a professor of art history at the university. We met at a museum fundraiser, the same museum where Patricia had once suggested I donate my grandmother's jewelry. I was wearing the jade bangle that night. James noticed it immediately. That's an incredible piece, he said, gesturing to my wrist. Qing dynasty, if I'm not mistaken. You know your jade. I teach a course on Chinese imperial jewelry. That bangle is museum quality. May I ask where you acquired it? It's a family heirloom, 6 generations. His eyes lit up. Would you be willing to talk about it sometime? I'd love to hear the history. We got coffee the next week, then dinner, then a walk through the botanical gardens where he told me about Ming vases, and I told him about surviving attempted murder. He didn't run away screaming, which I appreciated. So, you're the woman from the news, he said, the one who set up her husband. I prefer the woman who didn't die, he laughed. That's fair. Then, the jewelry he tried to steal, he thought it was real, but you'd switched it with fakes? Every piece. That's brilliant. Where did you have them made? I told him about the master craftsman, the $2 million investment, the risk of it all. James shook his head in admiration. You know what's funny? Even if he'd succeeded in killing you, he wouldn't have been able to sell the case, jewelry. It's too well documented, too famous. The moment he tried to auction it, experts would have identified it and traced it back to your family. I know, that's the best part. Even in a world where I died and he got away with murder, he still would have lost. The jewelry would have been confiscated. He would have gotten nothing. Poetic justice. I prefer inevitable justice. We dated for a year before he proposed. He did it at the museum in front of a display case containing a collection of jade artifacts. He'd arranged with the museum to temporarily display one of my grandmother's pieces, the jade bangle, alongside the historical artifacts. This belongs here, he said, gesturing to the bangle. History, art, legacy, and so do you. You're part of this story now. You preserved it, you protected it. You're the guardian of something beautiful, and I'd like to help you guard it, if you'll let me. It was the most romantic thing anyone had ever said to me. I said yes. We got married in a small ceremony with just family and close friends. My mother cried happy tears. Sandra was my maid of honor. I wore my grandmother's pearl necklace and felt her blessing. James didn't want my money. He had his own career, his own life. He wanted me. Just me. It was a completely foreign feeling, and I loved it. 5 years after the trial, 10 years after my first death and rebirth, I got a call from the prison. Marcus was dead. He'd had a heart attack in his cell. Quick, painless, allegedly. I felt nothing when I heard the news. Not relief, not vindication, not even satisfaction. He was gone, and my life went on, and that was that. I didn't go to the funeral, neither did his family. Patricia and Harold were still in prison. Derek had moved across the country and changed his name. Jennifer was in a women's prison in another state. The Chen family had imploded, and I'd been the catalyst. I spent that day with James instead. We went to the museum where we'd met. We looked at jade artifacts and talked about history, about how objects outlast the people who covet them. Your grandmother's jewelry will exist long after all of us are gone, James said. You, me, Marcus, everyone. The jade will remain. That's what he never understood. You can't possess beauty. You can only preserve it. He tried to possess me too, I said quietly. He thought I was just another object to own. But you weren't. You're not. James took my hand. You're the guardian, and guardians don't die easily. I smiled. No, we don't. 10 years after my rebirth, I did something I'd been planning for a long time. I opened a museum, the Vivian Chen Museum of Family Legacy, dedicated to preserving and protecting heirloom collections for future generations. We offered free security consultations, free appraisals, free legal assistance for people trying to protect their inheritances from predatory family members. I displayed my grandmother's jewelry collection on the top floor in a secure gallery with state-of-the-art security. Each piece had a placard explaining its history, its origin, its significance. And in the center of the gallery, I placed the fake jade bangle. The one Marcus had thought was worth $8 million, the one that was actually worth $50. The placard read, "This is a reproduction of the Empress Dowager 6C jade bangle, commissioned as a security measure. The original is displayed in the case to the right. This fake was created to protect the real piece from theft and fraud. It serves as a reminder that not everything valuable is real, and not everything real is visible. Authenticity matters. Protection matters. Legacy matters." Underneath, in smaller text, this reproduction was believed to be authentic by criminals who attempted to steal it through murder. They failed. The legacy continues. The exhibit became famous. People came from all over the world to see it. They took photos of the fake bangle and the real one side by side. They read the story of how I'd outsmarted a killer. Journalists called it the ultimate revenge museum. I called it survival. 20 years after my rebirth, I sat in the museum's main gallery with my mother, looking at the jewelry collection we'd protected together. She was in her 70s now, still sharp as ever, still my closest confidant. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Marrying him at all? You could have walked away before the wedding." I thought about it. No, I don't regret it. Because if I'd walked away, he would have just found another victim. Another rich, naive woman to manipulate and kill. At least this way, I stopped him. I saved whoever would have been next. "You saved yourself," she said. "That too." She squeezed my hand. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you. You protected her legacy. You protected yourself. You won." "We won," I corrected. "I couldn't have done any of this without you. That's what family is for." We sat in comfortable silence, surrounded by jade and pearls and diamonds that had survived wars and revolutions and time itself. Objects that Marcus Chen had tried to steal but had never touched. I thought about my first life sometimes. The version of me who'd died on the bedroom floor, who'd never known about the affair, who'd trusted the wrong person and paid with her life. I thought about how close I'd come to that same fate, even with all my knowledge and planning. How Marcus had still tried to kill me, how I'd still had to fight for survival. But I'd won. I'd lived. And that made all the difference. On the 25th anniversary of my rebirth, I received an unexpected visitor at the museum. A young woman, maybe 25 years old, with nervous eyes and a designer handbag she clutched like a lifeline. "Are you Vivian Chen?" she asked. "I am. I need help. My fiancé... I think he's only with me for my inheritance. My grandfather died and left me everything, and now suddenly my fiancé is very interested in getting married quickly, and he keeps asking about my will, and I read about you, about what happened, and I thought maybe you could help." I looked at this young woman who reminded me so much of my 22-year-old self. Scared, confused, hoping she was wrong, but knowing she wasn't. "Tell me everything," I said. She did. Over the next 2 hours, she told me about her fiancé's sudden attention after her grandfather's death, the pressure to sign a prenup that was entirely in his favor, the suggestions that she should consolidate her accounts with his for easier management, the isolation from her friends and family, all the red flags I'd ignored in my first life. "What should I do?" she asked finally. "Everyone says I'm being paranoid. Even my mother thinks I'm overthinking it." I smiled. "Trust your instincts, and let me help you verify them. Give me 3 days. I'll find out if he's genuine or if he's playing you." 3 days later, I had the answer. Her fiancé was having an affair with her cousin. They'd been planning to kill her on the honeymoon, make it look like a scuba diving accident. They'd already researched untraceable poisons. I showed her everything. The emails, the phone records, the research. She cried for an hour. Then she got angry. "I want to destroy him," she said. "Like you destroyed Marcus. I want him to know what it feels like to lose everything." "No," I said gently. "You want to protect yourself and walk away. Revenge is satisfying, but safety is more important. Let the police handle him. You focus on your life, your legacy, your future." But trust me, I spent 5 years planning Marcus's downfall, and yes, it was satisfying to watch him get arrested. But you know what's more satisfying? Living well, thriving, being happy. That's the real revenge, not wasting another second of your life on someone who doesn't deserve you. She nodded slowly. Okay, I'll call the police." "Good, and one more thing." I opened a drawer in my desk and pulled out a business card. "This is my lawyer. She specializes in protecting inheritances. Call her, set up a trust, make sure no one can ever steal from you, no matter what happens." She took the card. "Thank you. I don't know how to repay you." "You don't need to repay me. Just live, just be careful, just protect yourself." After she left, I sat in my office and thought about all the women I'd helped over the years. Hundreds of them. Women with predatory husbands, greedy relatives, manipulative partners. Women who'd come to the museum looking for hope and left with the tools to protect themselves. I'd turned my trauma into purpose, my survival into a mission. Marcus had tried to kill me for $43 million in jewelry. Instead, I'd used that jewelry to build something that would outlast both of us. A legacy, a movement, a safe haven. He'd lost, I'd won. And every day, I woke up and chose to keep winning. Now, 30 years after my rebirth, I'm 52 years old. My mother is 81 and still going strong. James and I celebrated our 28th anniversary last month. We have 2 children, a daughter named Grace and a son named Matthew. Both of them know the story of my rebirth, my revenge, my survival. I've told them everything. "Why?" Grace asked once. She was 15 at the time, old enough to understand. "Why tell us about something so dark?" "Because I need you to know that people aren't always what they seem. That trust has to be earned. That your inheritance, whatever I leave you, is not just money or jewelry. It's knowledge. It's protection. It's the lesson that you have to guard what matters, including yourselves." "That's kind of paranoid, Mom," Matthew said. "Maybe, but I'm alive because I was paranoid. And you'll stay safe because you learned from my mistakes." They understood. Eventually. And when they're older, when I'm gone, they'll inherit the jewelry, the real pieces that Marcus never touched. The legacy their great-great-great-great-grandmother started and that I protected. But more than that, they'll inherit the knowledge of how to protect it, how to spot predators, how to trust themselves. That's worth more than $43 million in jade and pearls. Sometimes late at night, I think about my first life, the version of me who died. I wonder if she's somewhere out there in some other reality, still dying on that bedroom floor. I hope not. I hope that by surviving, by changing my fate, I somehow changed hers too. Or maybe there are infinite versions of me. Some who died, some who survived, some who never met Marcus at all. I only know one thing for certain. In this life, in this reality, I won. Marcus Chen thought he could kill me and take my inheritance. Instead, I let him think he'd succeeded. I let him believe he'd fooled me, manipulated me, controlled me. I let him keep the fake jewelry, and I kept the real ones along with my life, my freedom, and my future. He died in prison with nothing. I built an empire from the ruins of his plan, and every time I wear my grandmother's jade bangle, I remember some legacies are worth protecting, some battles are worth fighting, and some revenge is best served by simply refusing to die. I am Vivian Chen. I was murdered for my inheritance. I came back, and I won.